Lyra walked through the crowded streets of Zerath Prime, her stomach growling louder than the distant hum of hovercars and neon advertisements. Every corner of the city was alive with movement, yet it felt cold and indifferent. Towering skyscrapers loomed above, their surfaces covered in glowing ads that promised comfort, luxury, and safety, but only for those who had credits to pay. Lyra had no credits, not a single one. Every transaction she had tried ended in rejection, a flashing red number, or a bored glance from a vendor. Hunger had become her constant companion, gnawing at her determination, and now, as she stumbled over a loose piece of metal on the sidewalk, she felt the sharp pang of desperation more than ever. Her eyes scanned the street. Humans were everywhere, but most of them were like her, thin, cautious, and wary of the alien overseers who patrolled the city in towering exosuits. The aliens moved with precise grace, their eyes glowing faintly as if their very gaze could measure the value of every living thing around them. Lyra had learned early that trying to fight or negotiate with them was pointless. Survival required observation, calculation, and sometimes compromise. As she turned into a narrower alley, she noticed a small booth tucked under a flickering neon sign. The sign read, "Your body is your currency. Exchange it for one meal." The words made her stop in her tracks. Her pulse quickened, but not in excitement. Fear surged through her veins. The offer was grotesque. The idea of her own body being something to trade, to use for survival, it should have repulsed her completely. And yet her stomach protested louder than her morals. Lyra hesitated, biting her lip. She had survived many hardships. She had scavenged broken machines, stolen scraps from careless merchants, and dodged patrols more than once. But this was different. She was no stranger to risk, but the risk she felt now was deeply personal. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. Hunger could cloud judgment, but sharp thinking could save lives. Even now she was calculating. How long could she wait before her body betrayed her from weakness? Perhaps one meal was enough to buy her a few more days. Inside the booth, the air was cold and sterile. The walls glowed faintly with alien script, moving and shifting in patterns that Lyra could not understand. She noticed the pod in the center of the room. It was sleek, smooth, and metallic, almost alive in its precision. This was where the exchange happened. She was supposed to step inside and let someone, or something, use her abilities for a short period in return for nourishment. A tall, alien figure stepped from the shadows. Its skin shimmered in shades of blue and silver, and its eyes glowed with a soft amber light. It was Xiron, one of the overseers who managed this part of the city. His voice was calm, yet carried the weight of authority. "You have come voluntarily?" he asked, tilting his head in curiosity. "Yes," Lyra said, her voice barely steady. She forced herself to meet his gaze. Fear was a luxury she could not afford. I want the meal." Xiron studied her for a moment, his gaze unnerving, as if he could see her thoughts. "Do you understand what this entails? Your abilities, your strength, your reflexes, they will be rented, for a duration. You will perform tasks according to the client's need. The exchange is temporary, but it is not without risk." Lyra nodded. She had no choice. Risk and survival were partners in her life. "I understand," she said. The pod hissed and opened like a welcoming mouth. Lyra stepped in, her heart pounding. Sensors scanned her from head to toe. The air inside smelled sterile and metallic, and she could hear faint beeps as the system recorded her vital signs. She tried not to think about what would happen next. Focus, she told herself. Focus and survive. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Then the voice of the overseer spoke again. "A client has chosen you. Prepare yourself." Her mind raced. Who would choose her? What would they ask of her? She had no skills that seemed extraordinary by alien standards. Her strength was average, her intelligence human, her reflexes ordinary. Yet humans were adaptable, and she had learned the art of improvisation from years of surviving on scraps. Perhaps that was enough. The first client appeared. They were humanoid, but unlike Lyra, their features were sharp, angular, and alien. They spoke in a language she did not understand, yet somehow she grasped their intent through gestures and tones. They wanted her to navigate a dangerous environment and retrieve an object. The pod's interface displayed instructions in basic human words, technology designed to bridge the gap. Lyra took a deep breath. She could do this. Humans were resourceful. Humans were clever. She reminded herself of the small victories that had kept her alive until now. escaping patrols, finding hidden food caches, outsmarting rival scavengers. Survival was in her nature, and she would not let fear dominate her. The pod lifted her slightly, placing her in a holographic simulation of the task ahead. It was a maze of hazards, unstable platforms, shifting walls, and sudden energy bursts. Lyra's heart raced, but her mind stayed clear. She studied the patterns, noticing the subtle timing of the moving platforms, the rhythm of the energy pulses. One step at a time, she moved with careful precision. Every movement mattered. Every decision could mean success or failure. As she reached the final chamber, a sudden obstacle appeared, a gap too wide to jump with energy fields blocking the edges. She paused, evaluating the situation. Then, with a spark of ingenuity, she used a small loose panel from the environment, propping it across the gap like a makeshift bridge. Her hands shook, adrenaline mixing with relief as she made it across safely. The simulation ended. Lights in the pod shifted, signaling completion. She had succeeded. The alien client observed her silently, then nodded in approval. Though she did not understand the specifics of their satisfaction, she felt a quiet pride. Her mind, her instincts, her ability to adapt, these were human strengths, and even in an alien-controlled system they had value. The pod opened, and a tray descended. On it was a single meal, nutrient-rich and carefully prepared. Lyra took it with trembling hands, overwhelmed by gratitude and exhaustion. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, feeling life return to her body with each swallow. It was not just food, it was proof that she could survive, even in a system designed to commodify her existence. Yet even as she ate, questions lingered in her mind. How many humans were trapped in this system indefinitely? How many had been forced to surrender their freedom for survival? And more importantly, was there a way to reclaim that freedom, not just for herself, but for all humans subjected to this cruel economy? Lyra left the pod, stronger, fed, but awake to a larger reality. Hunger had been momentarily satisfied, but the taste of survival was bittersweet. She glanced at Xiren once more, noting the alien's curiosity and quiet acknowledgement of her cleverness. Perhaps he had seen something different in her, something beyond mere survival. Something distinctly human. The city streets of Zerath Prime stretched before her, full of danger, opportunity, and uncertainty. Lyra knew that tomorrow she would face the same struggle again, but today she had survived. Today she had proven that even in a world designed to exploit humans, ingenuity, courage, and resilience could carve a path to life. And in that moment, walking through the neon-lit alleys, feeling the warmth of her meal in her stomach, she understood something vital. Survival was not just about credits or currency. It was about spirit. And no alien, no machine, no system, no matter how powerful, could take that away from her. The next morning, Lyra woke to the faint hum of the city and the distant clang of machinery. Her stomach no longer gnawed at her, but the memory of the pod and the alien overseer, Xiren, lingered like a shadow over her thoughts. Even as she stepped into the streets, she felt the pulse of Zerath Prime pressing down on her. The city never slept, never paused. Every alley held danger, every corner promised a challenge. Hunger had been momentarily satisfied, but a deeper understanding had begun to settle in her mind. The city was built to test humans, to measure their worth, and too many had already been reduced to mere currency. Lyra moved cautiously, keeping to the narrow walkways between the massive skyscrapers. The higher streets were dominated by alien patrols, gliding silently on anti-gravity platforms, their amber eyes scanning for any sign of disobedience. She knew she had to stay hidden, blending into the throngs of humans who shuffled like shadows, careful not to attract attention. She had survived the pod, but surviving outside it was an entirely different challenge. As she turned into a quieter sector of the city, she noticed a flickering sign above a closed storefront. It read, "The freeborn, those who resist are welcome." Her heart skipped a beat. She had heard whispers about a group of humans who refused to be pawns in the alien system. They were said to be clever, elusive, and determined to reclaim freedom for themselves and others. But such rumors were dangerous. Some humans had been caught trying to find them, never to return. Yet curiosity mingled with hope. Perhaps they were more than a myth. Perhaps she could find allies, people who understood that survival was more than just food. It was dignity, intelligence, and spirit. Lyra approached the entrance carefully, noting the subtle markers that distinguished this place from the surrounding buildings. A small symbol etched into the wall, A circle with 3 intersecting lines signaled that the building was safe. She tapped lightly, and a panel slid open, revealing a narrow corridor bathed in dim light. She entered, heart racing, senses alert. Inside, the room opened into a larger chamber, filled with humans of all ages. Some trained with weapons, others worked at consoles, hacking into alien systems. The atmosphere was tense but purposeful. A human woman with striking green eyes approached her, her movements confident and measured. "You're new," she said. "I'm Mara. We don't get many humans brave enough or desperate enough to find us." I need help," Lyra admitted. "I survived the pod, but I don't want to be a pawn. I want to understand, to fight, to survive in a better way." Myra studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You've got fire in you. That's rare. Come with me. There's someone you should meet." They moved through the facility, passing humans working quietly, eyes focused on their tasks. Lyra realized that this was more than a hideout. It was a hub of resistance, a network of humans determined to challenge the alien overseers and their exploitative system. Her pulse quickened. She had found a place where her ingenuity, courage, and resourcefulness might actually matter. At the end of the corridor, they entered a small room where a man sat before multiple holographic screens. His face was sharp, with scars that suggested experience and survival. Mara gestured toward him. "This is Kale. He coordinates our operations. Kale, this is Lyra. She survived the pod on her own." Kale looked up, amber eyes scanning her with quiet curiosity. "Impressive," he said. "Most humans crumble in the pods, or they are broken by the system before they even begin. You made it through. That tells me something about your mind and your spirit." Lyra felt a flicker of pride, tempered by caution. "I want to do more than survive," she said. "I want to help. I don't want anyone else to be trapped the way I almost was." Kale nodded slowly. "You'll have the chance, but first you need to understand how the system works. The pods are just one layer. The overseers monitor everything: food distribution, work quotas, even the movement of humans outside the pods. The city itself is a test, designed to measure value, obedience, and adaptability. And most humans, they don't last long." He gestured to the holographic screens, which displayed moving patterns of light, data streams, and images of the city. "These are the exchanges. Every human in the pods is monitored. Some are chosen repeatedly, others never escape. But there are patterns, loopholes. And we exploit them when we can. That's how we survive. That's how we fight back." Lyra leaned closer, absorbing every word. Her mind raced with possibilities. The pod had tested her reflexes and adaptability, but the real challenge was understanding the system, predicting it, and using it to her advantage. Humans were clever. They were unpredictable, and that was exactly what made them dangerous to the aliens. Kale continued. "There's a mission tonight. A small group of humans will infiltrate one of the major exchanges and temporarily free some of those trapped inside. You'll join them. Your skills, your ability to think under pressure, to improvise, will be invaluable." Fear surged through Lyra, but it was tempered by determination. She had survived the pod. She had outsmarted the system once. Now she had a chance to help others do the same. She nodded firmly. "I'll do it." The hours that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Lyra learned about the security systems, the patrol patterns, and the timing of the exchanges. She practiced moving silently, observed simulations, and strategized with Mara and Kale. Every piece of information sharpened her mind. Every training exercise strengthened her resolve. Humans were adaptable, and she was proof of that adaptability. As night fell over Zerath Prime, Lyra joined the small team moving through the shadows. The city lights painted the streets in shades of red and blue, flickering against the towering skyscrapers. Hovercars passed overhead, their lights casting brief illumination on the alleyways below. Every step required caution, every movement needed precision. They approached the exchange building, its neon sign flickering faintly, warning of the danger within. Lyra's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to focus. Mara gestured to the others, signaling their positions. The plan was simple in concept, but dangerous in execution. Infiltrate the building, access the pod system, free the trapped humans, and leave before the overseers noticed. Lyra took a deep breath. "Remember," Kale whispered, "this isn't just about survival. It's about proving that humans are more than tools, more than currency. Our minds, our courage, our creativity, those are our weapons. Use them." With that, they moved. Lyra's heart pounded, but she felt alive in a way she hadn't felt before. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light was part of the challenge, and she was ready. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and tonight they would do it again. Inside the building, the pod system hummed, lights blinking as if aware of their presence. Lyra's mind raced, analyzing the layout, the timing, the security protocols. She directed others quietly, her intuition guiding their movements. They reached the room where humans were trapped, each pod glowing faintly, the occupants slumped in suspended animation. With careful precision, Lyra hacked the interface, her fingers moving with confidence she didn't know she possessed. The pods hissed and released their occupants, who blinked and gasped, disoriented but alive. Relief and quiet triumph spread through the team. The humans were free, if only temporarily, but it was enough. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The overseers had detected the breach. Lyra's team froze, then moved swiftly, guiding the freed humans through alternate routes they had memorized during training. The city was alive with danger, but they navigated it with skill, their human ingenuity allowing them to escape pursuit. By the time they reached a safe zone, hearts were racing, muscles trembling, but spirits soared. Lyra looked around at the humans she had helped free. Their eyes reflected gratitude, fear, and hope. And she realized something vital. Humans were strongest when they relied on more than survival instincts. They relied on courage, intellect, and each other. As dawn broke over Zerath Prime, painting the city in shades of orange and gold, Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. The pod system, the overseers, the exploitative cities, they were challenges, yes, but not insurmountable. Humans could adapt, improvise, and fight back. And she, Lyra, would be at the forefront of that resistance. Tonight had proven it. Even in a world designed to reduce humans to currency, the human spirit could not be contained. They could be monitored, tested, and exploited, but the spark of ingenuity, the fire of determination, and the courage to act, it remained untouchable. And as long as that fire burned, humanity had a chance. The city was quiet, almost deceptively so, as Lyra and the Freeborn moved through the shadowed alleyways of Zerath Prime. Dawn had broken hours ago, washing the massive skyscrapers in pale gold, but the streets remained alive with movement. Hovercars patrolled slowly, alien drones buzzed overhead, and the soft hum of machinery never ceased. Every step carried risk, yet Lyra felt a thrill of purpose she had never experienced before. She was no longer merely surviving, she was fighting back. Kale led the group through a maze of corridors and side streets, his movements precise and silent. "We have to reach the secondary hub before the overseers notice the breach," he whispered, his eyes scanning constantly. "If they trace it to us now, everyone here could be compromised." Lyra followed closely, her mind sharp and alert. The events of the previous night still burned in her memory. The pods, the stolen freedom of the humans, the tense escape. She had been terrified, yes, but she had also discovered a power she hadn't known she possessed. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and capable of improvisation that even advanced alien AI often could not anticipate. That truth gave her courage. They reached the entrance to an old maintenance tunnel, hidden beneath an abandoned building. The Freeborn called it their safe artery, a network of hidden passages that allowed them to move undetected across large sections of the city. Lyra knelt to examine the small security nodes scattered around the entrance. Tiny sensors flickered faintly, scanning for movement, but with careful timing she disabled them one by one. Mara gave her a small nod of approval. "Your instincts are improving. We'll need every bit of that tonight." The tunnel stretched for hundreds of meters, winding beneath the city like a living vein. Pipes hummed overhead, and faint light from phosphorescent panels illuminated the damp walls. Lyra felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on her chest. She had joined the Freeborn expecting danger, but she had not expected the intensity of what was coming. Every sound echoed, every shadow seemed to move, and every step carried the potential for discovery. Kale stopped at a junction and raised a hand. "We split here. Lyra, Mara, and I will approach the hub from the south entrance. The others will create a diversion on the north side. Timing is everything. Remember, we're not just here to free humans. We're here to send a message. Humans are not pawns, not tools, not currency." Lyra nodded. Her heart pounded, but fear was tempered by determination. She had survived pods designed to exploit her body, had outsmarted alien security systems, and now she was preparing to challenge the system at a larger scale. Survival had never felt so alive, so meaningful. They emerged from the tunnel near the southern perimeter of the hub. Lyra crouched behind a stack of crates, observing the area. The building was heavily monitored, drones hovering silently, their sensors scanning for movement. Alien guards patrolled the roof, their glowing eyes sweeping the streets below. It would have been impossible to breach without precise timing and ingenuity. Kale glanced at her. "You're up. We need someone to get past the south sensors and open the secondary access point. The security network adapts fast. If we delay, the diversion will fail." Lyra's stomach tightened. This was riskier than anything she had done before, yet she felt ready. She studied the sensors, noting the gaps in their scanning pattern. The drones had a small blind spot every 7.2 seconds, a rhythm she memorized in seconds. Timing her movements, she darted forward, her body low, her mind focused on precision. Every nerve was alive, every instinct firing. A faint vibration ran through the ground, an approaching drone. Lyra froze, pressing herself against the crates. The drone's sensors swept past without detecting her. She exhaled slowly and continued, finally reaching the door panel. Her fingers danced over the alien interface, deciphering the symbols and translating them into commands. The system resisted at first, then yielded under her careful manipulation. The door hissed open, revealing a narrow passage into the hub. Inside, the atmosphere was colder, sterile, and humming with energy. Pods lined the walls, occupied by humans in suspended animation. Lyra moved quickly, her mind assessing the best way to release them. She tapped commands into the console, overriding the alien protocols. One by one, the pods opened, and humans blinked awake, disoriented but alive. Relief and quiet triumph surged through her. "Move them quickly," Kale whispered, his voice tight. "The diversion is starting. North entrance will draw attention, but the sensors here will detect any delay." Lyra guided the humans down the narrow passage, improvising a series of obstacles and diversions to keep alien detection off their trail. Her creativity and quick thinking allowed them to move with surprising speed and efficiency. She realized that this was more than a mission, it was a proof of concept. Humans were resourceful, unpredictable, and courageous. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed, and a low hum of energy indicated that the hub's security system had detected the intrusion. Alien patrols converged on their location. Lyra's pulse quickened, but fear was replaced by focus. Improvisation, adaptation, and collaboration, that was the human advantage. She signaled to the group to split into smaller units, using hidden passages mapped during reconnaissance. They moved like shadows, slipping between sensors, ducking beneath drones, and using environmental hazards to cover their tracks. Lyra's heart raced as she led a group of freed humans through a maze of vents and maintenance corridors. Every turn was calculated, every action deliberate. Her body moved with purpose, her mind sharp and alert. The city itself was a challenge, but humans had always turned challenges into opportunities. As they reached an old service shaft, Lyra paused, listening. Footsteps echoed above, alien voices speaking in a language she didn't understand, but their intent was clear: pursuit. The humans in her group trembled with fear. She placed a hand on one of their shoulders. "Stay calm, trust me. Humans are clever, we can do this." The service shaft led them to a small rooftop. The city stretched below, a dizzying expanse of light, motion, and danger. Lyra scanned the area. Drones hovered, guards patrolled, but there was a path, a gap in the patrol pattern that would take them to a hidden alley. Timing was crucial. She counted the seconds, then sprinted across the exposed roof, urging the others to follow. They made it. Hearts pounding, lungs burning, but alive. The freed humans were safe, if only temporarily, but the exhilaration of victory was undeniable. Lyra looked back at the hub, now a hive of flashing lights and alarms. They had struck, they had resisted, and they had survived. Kale approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Well done," he said quietly. "Tonight proves something important. Humans are unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of defeating even the most advanced systems when we act together. But this is just the beginning. The overseers will adapt. They will hunt, and we must be ready." Lyra nodded, her chest rising and falling with the effort of exertion. Fear had been a constant companion, but it was tempered now by pride, determination, and a new understanding of her potential. Humans were more than their bodies, more than their circumstances. They were clever, courageous, and unbreakable in spirit. As the team dispersed into the hidden corridors, Lyra found herself pausing to look at the city. Zerath Prime was vast, imposing, and indifferent. It would not yield easily, yet she felt a spark of hope. Tonight, they had proven that even in a system designed to exploit and control humans, ingenuity and courage could prevail. The pods, the overseers, the city itself. They were challenges, yes, but not insurmountable. She thought of the humans still trapped in other hubs, in pods, and in exchange centers across the galaxy. They would need someone like her, someone who could think quickly, act boldly, and inspire others. The Freeborn were growing, and with each mission, each success, they would become harder to ignore. Humans were not tools. They were not currency. They were unpredictable, brilliant, and alive. As dawn began to fade into morning, casting pale light across the rooftops, Lyra allowed herself a moment of reflection. Fear had not disappeared. It never would. But it had been transformed into focus, courage, and determination. She understood now that survival was not enough. Humans could survive, yes, but they could also resist, fight, and reclaim their freedom. And as she glanced at Kale and Mara, moving silently ahead, she felt the stirrings of something greater, a vision of humans as more than pawns, more than bodies for rent. They were minds, hearts, and spirits capable of defying systems designed to break them. The city around them continued its endless rhythm, unaware that a small but determined group of humans had begun to challenge its authority. Lyra felt the thrill of possibility coursing through her. This was not just a mission. This was the start of a movement, and she was at its heart, ready to face whatever challenges came next. The city of Zerath Prime had changed in subtle ways. To most, it was the same vast, neon-lit metropolis, buzzing with hovercars and patrolling drones, its streets crowded with humans and aliens alike. But to Lyra and the Freeborn, the city felt different, charged with tension, alive with possibility. The last mission had proven something vital. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unpredictable, and the overseers, for all their power and technology, were beginning to notice. Kale gathered the team in the hidden safe house, the low hum of machinery providing a constant backdrop. Lyra stood beside him, alert, ready. The freed humans from the previous night were there too, being briefed on safety protocols and learning the network of tunnels that kept the Freeborn hidden. Even though exhaustion etched lines on their faces, their eyes glowed with determination. They had survived, and now they wanted more. "The overseers know we've been active," Kale said quietly, his tone calm but serious. "They're increasing patrols, deploying more drones, and reinforcing security around the pod systems. Our window is shrinking. We need a strategy that is faster, smarter, and more unpredictable." Lyra listened intently. Fear still lingered at the edges of her mind, but she pushed it aside. She had learned to act under pressure, to think on her feet. Tonight, she would need every ounce of ingenuity she possessed. Humans were adaptable, and that adaptability was their greatest weapon. Mara stepped forward, spreading a holographic map of the city across the table. Red lights indicated drone patrols, orange marked guard routes, and green highlighted the pod hubs that still held humans in captivity. "We strike at multiple hubs simultaneously," she said. "Distractions, diversions, and precise infiltration. Lyra, you lead the team on the Eastern Hub. Your experience in the previous mission gives you an edge. Timing, improvisation, and clever thinking, use them all." Lyra nodded, absorbing every detail. Her mind raced with possibilities, tactics, and contingencies. Humans were not strong like the aliens, not fast enough to outrun drones without planning, not powerful enough to force doors open. But they were clever, resourceful, and coordinated. They could turn their disadvantages into advantages, and that was exactly what she intended to do. Night fell quickly over Zerath Prime, shrouding the city in shadows and neon glow. Lyra's team moved silently through the alleys and maintenance tunnels, guided by Mara and Kale. Every movement was precise, every pause measured. The city was alive with danger, but the Freeborn moved like ghosts, unseen and unheard. As they approached the Eastern Hub, Lyra crouched behind a stack of crates, observing the sensors and patrol patterns. The building was heavily fortified, more so than the hub from the previous mission. Drones hovered above, scanning for heat signatures, while alien guards moved in synchronized steps along the perimeter. Lyra's mind worked rapidly, analyzing patterns, timing movements, and predicting possible obstacles. She noticed a subtle flicker in the sensors, scanning rhythm, a brief gap that could be exploited. She whispered instructions to her team, guiding them in synchronized movements that relied on both timing and improvisation. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also intelligent. They reached the outer wall of the hub without alerting the patrols. Lyra took a deep breath and tapped a sequence into a small device, temporarily disabling the external sensors. The team slipped inside through a maintenance entrance, moving quickly to the pod chamber. The pods lined the walls, each one containing a human in suspended animation. Lyra approached the control console, her fingers flying over the alien symbols as she deciphered the commands. She released pod after pod, watching as humans blinked awake, disoriented but alive. Relief and quiet triumph filled the room, but the alarm sounded almost immediately after. The hub's security system had detected the breach. Red lights flashed, drones converged, and alien guards moved toward the chamber. Lyra's pulse quickened, but fear was replaced by focus. Improvisation, adaptation, and teamwork, the human advantage, would guide them through this. She directed the freed humans to follow a secondary route, one mapped during reconnaissance, and led them through a maze of corridors, vents, and hidden passages. The chase was tense. Drones hovered, scanning the hallways with deadly precision, while guards moved silently, their glowing eyes sweeping every corner. Lyra's heart raced, but her mind was sharper than ever. She guided her team with careful timing, using shadows, obstacles, and small environmental hazards to block pursuit. Every step was a test of nerve, skill, and human ingenuity. As they emerged onto the rooftop, the city sprawled beneath them like a living, breathing entity. Lyra scanned the area, calculating the safest path to a hidden alley. Drones circled overhead, and patrols adjusted their positions in response to the breach. The stakes were higher than ever, but she felt the thrill of possibility. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they could do it again. Timing the patrol cycles perfectly, Lyra led the team across the rooftop, sprinting from shadow to shadow. They reached the alley safely, breathing heavily but triumphant. The freed humans followed, their gratitude evident but tempered by the understanding that danger still lingered. Lyra felt a surge of pride. Humans were clever, courageous, and capable of feats even the overseers had not anticipated. Kale and Mara joined her, nodding in approval. "Well done," Kale said quietly. "Tonight proves something vital. Humans are not tools, not currency. We are clever, resilient, and unpredictable. The overseers will adapt, but so will we. Every mission makes us stronger. Every freed human is a spark that cannot be extinguished." Lyra smiled faintly, exhaustion mixing with exhilaration. She realized that survival alone was not enough. Humans could endure, yes, but they could also resist, fight, and reclaim their dignity. Her body had once been considered currency, her existence merely a transaction. Now she understood the true value of being human: courage, creativity, and the willingness to act when the odds were stacked against you. As dawn approached, painting the city in pale gold, Lyra reflected on the journey. The pods, the overseers, the sprawling metropolis designed to control and exploit. They were challenges, yes, but not insurmountable. Humans had survived impossible situations before, and they would survive this one too. With ingenuity, collaboration, and courage, they could shape their own destiny. The freeborn prepared to disappear into the tunnels once more, leaving the city above unaware of the revolution quietly taking shape. Lyra paused, looking back at the eastern hub. Alarms still flashed, drones circled overhead, and alien guards reinforced their positions, but the humans inside were free, even if temporarily. It was a victory born of careful planning, quick thinking, and determination, the essence of humanity itself. Lyra felt a surge of hope. The battle was far from over, but the spark had been lit. Humans were not pawns in a galactic system designed to exploit them. They were minds, hearts, and spirits capable of ingenuity and bravery, and as long as that spark burned, freedom was possible. The city hummed around her, unaware of the small but growing resistance moving in its shadows. Lyra knew that the overseers would not relent, that challenges would grow fiercer, and that the cost of resistance could be high. Yet she also knew this: humans could survive, adapt, and prevail where others might fail. Courage, intelligence, and determination were more powerful than any machine or alien overlord. As the freeborn dispersed into the hidden corridors, Lyra took one last look at the city. Each light, each shadow, each distant sound was a reminder of the stakes and the potential. The pods still existed elsewhere, The overseers still controlled vast systems, but the human spirit was unbroken. Each freed human was a testament to resilience, each clever maneuver a statement that humans could not be reduced to mere currency. Lyra walked through the tunnels with a renewed sense of purpose. She had survived the pods, outsmarted the overseers, and led a successful mission to free others. Her body and mind had been tested in ways she had never imagined, and she had proven that humans were more than the sum of their circumstances. Strength was not just physical, it was intelligence, courage, and the will to act. By the time the sun rose fully over Zerath Prime, casting light across the towering skyscrapers, Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. The Freeborn would continue their work, quietly, strategically, and relentlessly. Humans would continue to defy expectations, challenge oppression, and reclaim their freedom. And Lyra, once a survivor, now a leader, would be at the heart of it all, guiding, inspiring, and proving to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. The city pulsed with life around her, indifferent yet full of possibility. And in that moment, Lyra understood something fundamental. Survival was not enough. Humans were clever, courageous, and capable of greatness beyond what the overseers could measure. The pods had tested her body, the city had tested her mind, and the missions had tested her courage. She had passed every test, not because she was stronger or faster than the aliens, but because she was human, and humanity, in all its complexity, could not be contained.